Hi class, and welcome to week 6 of the online Academic English 20C course. We are over halfway, so well done for making it this far. Let's start by looking at a quick recap of week 5. So the two major things that you guys had due in week 5 were the final draft of paper 1 and the midterm. So you have feedback for both of these. You have plenty of it. So I would advise you to look at the advice and suggestions that I have made and to react to that. Okay. The final draft feedback generally, now speaking very generally across the class, quotation and citation is pretty poor. So it might be a case of choosing better quotes and also looking at knowing language and the presentation to discover how to properly integrate these quotes. Many of you also struggled with peer review. You didn't do that. You can still up your score by 5 points if you do the peer review by the end of this week. Okay, it is important to do it. And of course analysis. We haven't looked at analysis really in depth just yet, but it is something that we have to work on in 20C. Midterm feedback generally, in the final draft you had a little bit more time to work out your grammar, but in the midterm I was surprised by the number of grammar errors still there, particularly with sentence structure, verb form, and articles. So this is something that we might have to, pay a little bit more attention to before we submit. Okay, to clean that grammar up first time around. We shouldn't need 3 drafts every single time we submit something. Okay, so work on that in the midterm revision. Okay, week 6, let's move on. We have paper 2. We're going to look at paper 2 draft 0 this week. I know, moving on to paper 2 so quickly. Quiz 6 as well as articles. Many of you struggle with this, so I would like you to work hard on the 3 practice quizzes that we have. There's a video, another Vox video, the same as the previous one we looked at. This one's called Scientists Really Aren't the Best Champions of Climate Science. We have an article which is The Psychology of Turning People Green from the Minneapolis Post. And from Knowing Language, we're going to look at critical reading. Okay, that is in chapter 12. So, lots of things to do. We have a busy week ahead. So, this is the paper 2 prompt. Okay, and as you can see, it is an individual can have an impact on others, but convincing people to change their behavior is not necessarily easy. Okay, so we can change other people's behavior and opinions, but it's not easy. So how do we persuade others to make more sustainable choices? Okay, what's the best way to change other people's behavior, to convince them to act in a more sustainable way? And we're going to look at lots of different articles on this. We looked at one last week, Peddling Sustainability, and that was Ramon Zavala, the UCI employee, and what he wanted to do, he wanted to change people's commuting behavior. Okay, he wanted to persuade people to act more sustainably when they are commuting, and we saw that the things that he could do, he could educate people, he could write a blog about his experiences, share his experiences with others. He also modeled the behavior of cycling. He doesn't drive a car, and he modeled what it would be like to just use sustainable transport in the hope that other people might copy him. And he also organized for classes, so people could be educated about how to maintain and how to cycle safely. So the 3 ways he might do it would be, well, he educated others through his blog. He modeled the behavior that he wanted other people to do, and he also organized. So he set up these workshops. Many of you, when you did the comprehension questions, said that he taught the workshops. He actually didn't. He just organized them. Okay, moving on. So that was peddling sustainability. That's the first article that we have. Now we also have a Vox video. Okay, this one's called "Scientists Really Aren't the Best Champions of Climate Science." And we have our friend Professor Sanjayan from UCLA. So he's in the video again, and he talks about why scientists aren't very good at persuading people to change their behavior. So, scientists are really good with data. Okay, they can crunch data, they can look at numbers, they can make sense of numbers, but they aren't necessarily very good at communicating why we should believe them. And Professor Sanjayan looks at the different ways we can convince people. He looks at how the Pope was convinced to change his stance and to make climate change a priority. The guy who helped him do this appealed to him as a moral leader. So the Pope's very interested in moral choices. So the way that you speak to him is you talk about it being a moral issue. He also talks about Debbie Dooley, who is a very conservative in America. It's the Tea Party movement, and they usually would not be friends of climate science and kind of like sustainability, but the way her mind was changed was that it talked about freedom. They're very interested in freedom, the freedom to do whatever they want. So if you decide to use solar power or wind power, this is a freedom of choice. And also looking at immigrant and minority communities as well, and how they can adopt more sustainable practices. So he looks at ways to change people's minds, and all of this is relevant to our question. The last thing we're going to look at is an article, which is The Psychology of Turning People Green. This is from the Minneapolis Post. Again, it's a newspaper article. Let's do a quick annotation of this, and then I'm going to ask you guys to finish off the annotation for homework. So we see here, the article starts, most Americans now accept the scientific reality of global warming. Okay, so this is also mentioned in the video. People believe that it's true. But we don't do so much about it. But we do accept that it's true. Okay, so once we've accepted that, then we have to go about maybe changing behavior. And that's what we're looking at in this article and in these videos. So, but what they have more difficulty accepting is that they need to alter their daily behavior. Okay, so need to alter daily behavior is a key part of this question. And how do we get people to do this? Such as switching to public transport, like the previous article we looked at, reducing home energy, waste and recycling. Help mitigate. Mitigate, what does that word mean? Okay, if we don't know a word, we can highlight it and we can explain it. So mitigate means to reduce the effect of something. Okay, so reduce the effect of warming. One widely used approach to triggering such changes in behavior has been to educate people about the dangers of global warming and then try to persuade them that they to help to save the environment. Okay, so the old educate and persuade, this is what Ramon Zavala was looking at. Okay, but as we saw previously, there is certain studies that point out that we don't necessarily change our behavior very easily. Okay, if you look at the last sentence, it is human nature to devalue, disregard, and even act adversely to information that is not in line with their own attitudes and goals. We saw this, okay? We saw this in paper 1. People know what to do, but they don't do it. So what can we do? We can align the information we give them to match their personal goals. So whatever their personal goals are, we can try to convince them through the ability to achieve these goals. Okay, so this article then goes on to cite and to investigate a number of different experiments and different types of research. So you guys can annotate the rest of it, but really it's about how to change people's mind. Okay. Critical reading, this is a big part of knowing language. So we have a number of different sources to use for paper 2 now. We have Peddling Sustainability, we have the Vox video, we have the Minneapolis Post article. And what we have to do with critical reading is we have to look at these and judge how reliable they are. Okay, Peddling Sustainability, it's good. It's just one example. It's just one guy that's being interviewed and it's just his experience. Okay, the Vox video, well, it's very well produced. There's a number of people behind this. It includes statistics, it includes examples, it includes testimony from experts. So that's, even more reliable. Minneapolis Post, lots of experiments, lots of research. It cites lots of studies. So that's, probably quite a reliable source to use. When we critically read, we look at evidence. What evidence is there? Is it just one person's example? Is it statistics? The style, okay? Who is the audience? Who are being, who are reading it? Who are watching it? And the purpose. What is the main goal of this piece of writing? Critical reading is really important, particularly nowadays, because there's a lot of not so reliable news sources, and people who might say things that have no statistics to back it up, that are completely false, and we have to fight against that. So critical reading is becoming more and more important in today's world. Okay, let's move out of this and go towards this week's Canvas page. Okay, a couple of things to tell you guys about. The vocabulary practice has changed. Okay, so I've given the 3 people at the top here, I've given you your language points, and the next one is paper 2 vocabulary. So click on this, and if you complete 100%, you'll get the language development points. These are all words that we'll be looking at in the articles, okay, and that we'll come across. Okay, so that's moved on. As you can see, articles and critical reading presentations. So please watch these. It's very important that you do keep up with the work. We have the pre-draft of paper 2, which is it's kind of a simpler version of the text that I showed earlier. So imagine you are trying to change a friend's mind about something. What is the best way to do this? Okay, you can write 300 words on this to get started with paper 2, to try to get some ideas going. Okay. Okay, let's move back to week 6. We also have this, the video, and I'd like you to join a discussion on the video. There's also some articles, practice quizzes as well. Okay, you can have 2 goes at these. If you have any questions about them, please let me know. There's a critical reading, so I'd like you to do this quiz after reading chapter 12. As usual, there's some stuff to do on the article. There's still the midterm revision. If you haven't done that, please get it in. And articles is this week's quiz. Okay, this is the annotation exercise that I mentioned earlier. Just click on it and annotate down the side, explain some words, comment on the style, comment on the writing itself. You've been doing a good job with that so far, so keep it up. Okay, that's about everything for week 6. Week 6 is building up to draft 1 and draft 2. This is more about reading the articles, watching the videos, and getting the information so we can perform well later on. Okay, so good luck with it, and if anybody has any questions, as usual, please let me know. Take care.